This video will probably have more questions than answers. And instead of me giving you advice on what you can do in your own life, it will mainly be me exploring some thoughts around the subject and having you be a part of this exploration. So, how do we find the balance between having high standards and not being judgmental of other people? I'll give you some context so maybe you can understand where I'm coming from. Basically, when I was 17 years old, I was 225 pounds. I played a lot of League of Legends, and I would eat 3 cookies a day after lunch. And I went on a river trip with my family to Europe. I came back, I stepped on the scale, and that was the first time in my life where I saw 3 digits on the scale at 101.1 kilograms. So that day is when I made the decision to lose weight, right? And within the next 3 months, I lost 15 kilograms, and then eventually I ended up building muscle and looking mainly the way I look in this video today. Then from there, when I went to college from Turkey to Los Angeles to study at UCLA for my computer science degree, I was very afraid of speaking to people because internally I still saw myself as the fat kid, even though people were very interested in me, whether it was in a friend context or even in a romantic context. So then the next thing I took on was my social fears. I would go ask people to sit with them at the dining halls that we had at UCLA, B Plate, our healthy dining hall, which was amazing. I would compliment strangers. I had this concept called High Five Sundays where I had to high five 5 strangers every Sunday. So I became someone who would just dive into his fears. And I saw so many times in my life how much I could change if I just made the decision. And this has helped me build a life where, I'm in decent shape, I've got decent social skills, I have a decent belief system, and I feel like I can enjoy my own company regardless of what is going on in my life on the outside. And I think when we build a life like this, it's a natural instinct to try and protect this, to make sure that other people who are coming into our lives don't take this part of our lives away. And that means if we are dating and meeting people and they have habits that might be destructive, like drinking, smoking, um, going out a lot, or whatever feels destructive to you, then there might be a little bit of friction between you and this person because you might say, well, I worked so hard to build the life that I built, and these habits of health, whether it's physical health or emotional health, are very important to me. However, someone in the paradigm of being more relaxed, who enjoys going out and drinking every now and then with their friends, who's maybe knows like, okay, smoking or vaping is not really good, but this is just a part of my life. To them, this can feel quite judgmental, and they might feel like you don't accept them because of the standards you're bringing in to this relationship. And the reason I wanted to record this video was mainly to gather my own thoughts, because I feel like this is something that I personally dealt with a little bit in my own experience of meeting people. Like, I'm a big believer in change, and I feel like anyone, if they made a decision, it doesn't matter where they are in life, if they make a decision, they can just change whatever it is they want in their lives. And I think sometimes that perspective can be quite confronting for another person to fully see, especially if they're not happy with the things that they are doing in their own lives. At the same time, I don't have the intention to judge other people's lives, and I understand everyone's on their own journey, and yeah, we're all figuring things out at our own pace. So I don't know. I I don't know what else to say, because it seems like on one hand, there's this friction between becoming more accepting and letting these people more into my life. But if I do that, there's a risk that all these things I worked really hard for, like my own health, physically, emotionally, can take a hit. And I don't know how to reconcile that. And I think if you are someone who's a high performer, or you are someone who's been through the journey of self development and you've reached the other side of creating so much of the life that you wanted and you had to make sacrifices to get to where you are, maybe this is something that you might struggle with as well, especially in the context of dating and meeting people. And I think when you're in that position, sometimes what can happen is you can feel quite lonely, because not many people might share the perspective that you share about this subject. People might say, like, okay, well, why do you care about me more than I care about myself? And that's a hard question to answer. And sometimes you might feel even guilty for trying to encourage people to live a better life. Um, and that's a difficult position to be, because at least the way I think about it, if we care about someone and they're a close part of our lives, then that care also means we will be honest with that person around our expectations as well as what we truly believe. And to me, it's really difficult to see someone engage in unhealthy habits and not feel pain for this person if I care about this person. Um, yeah, because I can almost see the long-term impacts of this behavior. At the same time, I can understand that this is a cycle that they might be stuck in, and to them, this can be very normal. So to them, my perspective might be the perspective that's a little bit strange. And I think if you're someone with high standards, and these standards are coming from a position of self-love, like you don't find yourself being judgmental a lot, but maybe your standards look judgmental to other people, I think it's really important to know the standards you have aren't the norm for everyone else, right? Some people might be happy with being in a state of survival in their relationship and say, okay, if I'm just good enough in my health, that's good for me. I don't need to go to the gym all the time. I don't need to quit all my bad habits. I just need to be at a maintenance level. Whereas maybe for you, you don't want life here, but you want life here. And again, that desire can be quite confronting for other people to see. And if you meet someone that you like, and maybe they haven't met anyone who has that desire for themselves or for their partner, then they can feel pressure. They can feel like, okay, um, sure, I want to make these changes in my life, but now I feel forced, and I feel like if I don't make these changes, then this person's not going to accept me. And that's not a good position to be in either. So again, I don't have any clear answers on this video. I wanted to talk about this topic because it's been top of mind for me. It's been something that's been coming up, and I think it's important to talk about because it's kind of niche. It's a problem for men, maybe even women, if you're a woman watching this, who have put in the work in themselves, who have made changes. Maybe it was losing weight. For me, it was losing weight, then building social skills, then going deep into meditation and building a peaceful mind. And when you put in so much work into creating the person that you are, of course, you see the potential in someone else. However, if we fall in love with the potential of the other person and not the reality, that can make us very delusional. Um, so if you're in this position of having created a lot of the changes that you wanted to create, and you're thinking about, how do I meet people? and who do I let into my life. Just understand that sometimes your standards can be very confronting for other people who are happy living the life that they want to live. That doesn't mean you are wrong. It also doesn't mean they are wrong. We just have different comfort zones around what we are okay with tolerating in life and where we are okay with being. And unfortunately, we cannot just drag someone if they don't want to be dragged. And sometimes, I'm saying this as a person who's paid to help people build a better mind and build better beliefs, but sometimes we can't even drag the other person, even if they want to be dragged into their lives. So we have to respect everyone's own journey. And if you understand that, then you get the gift of saying, okay, I see the potential in this person, but it is not the reality right now. So I'm just going to allow them to be in their own journey. And maybe to the outside, um, this might feel a little bit avoidant. I personally think this is a good way to protect yourself from potentially being hurt, not because the other person is bad, but because they're in a different stage of their journey. So these are my thoughts between the the conflict or the tension of having high standards versus looking judgmental. Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoy this and see you next time.